This narrow structure was a key part of Wallace's plans. The Scots had positioned themselves on the high ground on the north side of the river. In 1297, this is what Wallace might have seen. He and his lightly armed foot soldiers would have had a clear picture of the task that faced them. Looking south to the river, they could see the English as they prepared for battle in the shadow of Stirling Castle. Accounts say that the English had brought 1,000 cavalry and 50,000 infantry to face the spears and dirks of the rebels. They outnumbered the Scots by as much as 10 to 1. Wallace's men knew it was make or break.
The English army at that time was regarded as the mightiest fighting machine in Christendom. Wallace must have been a dynamic leader to have instilled in his men the belief that they could win. Not just against superior numbers, but against much more superior armaments, horses, weaponry, even money when it comes down to it. And even although they were outnumbered, Wallace used the land of Scotland itself to help.
The fourth looped round, leaving an area of boggy ground between the English and the Scots. This was crossed by a single raised causeway that followed the same course as the road does today. The bridge and this narrow road caused a bottleneck. The logistics of getting the sheer numbers onto the field of battle would have made for a scene like the start of the London Marathon. It made some of the English knights nervous, but as the nobles discussed tactics, the tide rose, making the marshland even boggier. Delays and indecision were to prove fatal. 3 times the English started across the bridge, and 3 times they drew back. Dominican friars were sent across to offer Wallace peace terms, but the message came back: "We have not come for peace, but to avenge our country." The upstart was spoiling for a fight, and the English were happy to oblige. Wallace and Murray couldn't believe their luck. The enemy was about to fall into their trap. The narrow bridge could only take 2 horses at a time. As the heavily armoured mounted knights rode off the causeway to form a battle line, the ground became too boggy for an effective charge. The English were probably expecting the Scots to wait till they'd all processed across the bridge and lined up nicely. That was the etiquette of chivalry. But Wallace and Murray weren't like that. They were street fighters, engaged in a last-ditch attempt to save their country. They waited until just the right amount of Englishmen had crossed, enough to fight and enough to kill, and then Wallace gave a single blast of his horn. The Scots rushed out from their stronghold on the high ground beyond where that white bungalow is. They attacked on both flanks and they cut off the English retreat back to the bridge. With no room to form up and completely unable to manoeuvre, the English were stuck. The Scots slashed at the hamstrings of their horses and stabbed at their underbellies, and as the horses fell, the English were dead meat. It was carnage. The chronicles report 5,000 English dead. The victory was against all odds. Native cunning and spirit had defeated numbers, money and equipment. The English retreated in disarray. To this day, Stirling Bridge is symbolic of an unbreakable sense of national pride, whatever the southern neighbours may do.